I just block everything. I just keep to myself, but I still want to be open and kind of ventilating my energies and being connected, right? So I figured, okay, I connect with earth and I connect with heavens. Right? But when I want to be undisturbed in my energies in relation to other people, I will just block to everything going on around me. So, and this is just a thought and an emotion. If you can think it, that's like the beginning, right? And then you pull up some energy so that you feel it, you have an emotion about it, and you're just feeling that you're making a blockage around yourself, but you are kind of open to the heavens and the earth, and you can keep that, and then you are protected. And you can even just say to yourself, or you can say to the universe, I am protected. Thank you, universe, for observing this. Right? And then it's like an affirmation that is reaching out also to the universe or reality around you. So yeah, that was how but now I don't really have to think about it anymore. It's become a part of me. So I don't really feel much. And when I was in these like 10, 15 years where I was under a lot of stress, having a really hard time in my life, and especially in the latest 5 years of that, I was carrying a lot of pain. I was carrying a lot of sorrow, and sometimes you meet people who, like I was doing when I was in my early 20s, I was just learning about this. Oh, energy, I can feel stuff. So I would feel people, I would feel plants, I would feel like everything, you know? And which is kind of disrespectful also, I think. you have to respect people's boundaries and privacy. But so when people come and try to, when I felt like someone was trying to feel me, I would be like, I would block it completely. You know, not because I was scared to show, but because I didn't want anybody to feel what I was feeling, because I was carrying such darkness, such pain. So it can go both ways. You can block yourself from being affected by other people, and you can block so that other people are not affected or able to feel you.
For me, sometimes it's more of I feel like the sadness, the sadness of other, or the despair, the sadness of the world, you know,
Yes.
other people. Yeah, so it's something that can make me sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I have experienced this too, quite recently actually. I mean, the world, depending on how you see it, you could say that the world is a pretty harsh and shitty place in many ways, and we are creating much suffering. But I also think that, you know, this is our freedom, right? We are free to enjoy, we are free to love, we are free to suffer. People say, well, if there is a God, why doesn't he come down and save all the children with AIDS, or, you know, like the starving children? Why doesn't God come down and save? No, but we have free will. And as long as we are collectively creating suffering, you know, we are going to do that. But we don't have to. But this is, of course, a very slow process, and because it's a large collective, right? And so I don't do it as a spiritual bypass thing, like where I can learn to just ignore the suffering and just, yeah, it's all spirit. We're all choosing. You know, they came down to this life to suffer and experience this pain. No, well, they did, but that is not a reason for me to not do anything or do what I feel should be done about it. But what I'm trying to say is that I get this perspective where I accept suffering. I accept the suffering in myself. I accept the pain and the sadness in myself. And I can also accept the suffering and the pain and the sadness in the world. And also, I don't want to create that anymore. So I will not go to a zoo where animals are kept in prisons. I will not eat animal products. I will try to not consume products that lead to suffering, you know, exploitation of other people. Like if I am to pay someone to help me build my house, I'm not going to, if I have the power to do so, I'm not going to push the wages down to $3 per day, even if I can, because that is, that would not be like ethical, that would not be in line with actually creating happiness or what I want. Okay, sorry, maybe I talked a bit much on that question. Any other questions?
So do you like walk through what you would do when one of these things would get hurt? And you said vaguely that you would feel where the energy and the pain was and you would go and put some healing in. Could you go into a little more detail on that?
Like I feel the energy in my hands. Like if I may feel like I can feel you, I can feel your energy, I can feel your attention right now. And it's the same if you hurt. First of all, there is fear, because pain is the worst thing about pain is usually fear, the fear of the pain. So there will be like an emotional blockage there, and I just feel, I can feel like pressure of the energy field of a person in my hands. It's like I feel this. I can feel there are grooves. I can feel there are grooves in the energy, just by how it, it's difficult to describe, but most of you were doing the breathing before, and you get this buzzing feeling in your hands, in your body. So that is a really good way to connect with feeling this energy. Practice that often, these breathing techniques and meditation on that, and then start playing with it. Yeah, this buzzing feeling is just there, but can you do something with it? Can you make it stronger as you wish? If you put your hands together and push that buzzing feeling out of your body, out of your hands, can you feel something happening? Like, play with it. I mean, and then it's like when you start feeling and you just feel in your body, it's like digging in sand. Then it's like, oh, here it feels different. Okay, I will just take that out. Just take that out. And don't get stuck to anything, because this is also my thing. You can be like, oh, how do I get rid of this bad thing? Just put it on fire. It's gone. It's burnt. Right? And then you just, with your intention of healing, you bring up emotions of love, compassion, and you direct that kind of energy out of your body into whatever you want to do. Now if you do it this way, and you do it a lot, you're going to empty yourself. So that's what I did, because I didn't learn this from anybody. So I was just experimenting, and then eventually I would be like, I was at this event and we were doing healing, I was healing a lot of people in the event. I was like super tired in the end. I was like, okay, I need to do this differently. So then I started channeling energy instead, just taking it in, not actually drawing on myself. So I mean, you can do anything in any kind of way. You just have to try to find good and smart ways, right? So you don't harm yourself. Did that answer your question? Cool. Anything else? Any more questions? Well, since I went back to it, like 12 years, and then not always totally, of course. It's been a bit like the last 6 years, maybe I have had like a couple of cooked meals, like every 2 years, or like 1.5 years or so. But it's always a mistake. It's always a lesson. It's always an opportunity of learning.
Do you feel like raising that?
It depends. With fruit like this, yeah. I mean, stuff in it, plenty of greens, because it's going to help the transition. They have more mineral density, and it can help.
Once you're already
Yeah. Yeah. Some people go like, no, I'm fruitarian, like pure fruitarian, no greens, pure. And then you have this purity thinking. It's the same with fasting. You're going to hurt yourself again if you do it. You need a sustainable lifestyle if you're going to sustain it. Right? And so I would never say like no greens, never greens. It's like the same with people who have been like raw vegan, fruitarian for 20 years, 30 years, and they have gotten to a place where they don't even need to eat all that much because their absorption is so good. Maybe they're also not actually spending all that much energy. They probably wouldn't come on up with me for a run that takes 1,500 calories for one run when they don't even eat 1,500 calories in one day. I mean, so everything, you know, has to be put in a proper perspective. But yeah, so I would say just eat enough and eat plenty of greens. Like me, I live up in the north, in Sweden, Norway. Fruit is kind of shit, but it's still better than any kind of cooked foods. It's still better than steamed broccoli, right? So I just pound in extra amounts of fruit. It might seem like a brutal way, but it lets me stay raw. And lots of greens. What?
How do you pound it on?
Well, in the beginning I was eating like 6 fruit meals per day and just keeping full a lot of the time, and my stomach grew bigger and bigger because it's very elastic, it will adapt. And now I can sit down and have like 1,500 calories of bananas in one meal like this, and I'm good. And so I only need like 2 fruit meals per day, and then some greens after. And about the greens, like the worse the quality of fruit, the more greens in general. Yeah. And yeah, don't be afraid of the greens. Don't do this purity kind of thinking like fruitarian should only be fallen fruit from the tree, and you know, like it's not very practical in most people's lives in the world today, I think.
Most long-term raw vegans consume a lot of greens. Like, I mean, long-term fruitarians really that just are strictly fruit.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's kind of the sustainability aspect.
Yeah. It's the same with. I mean, you could say I do fasting almost every day. Maybe not so much here now because of the situation, but I usually get all my food in a 6-hour window. Even when working, my job is cargo train terminal with outdoors work in Oslo all year, like summer, winter, lots of snow and ice, heavy stuff like these big iron things that I have to throw around like 100 of them, and they weigh half as much as me. You know? So it's like really heavy work all the time, and I am working harder than basically anybody there. I'm in better shape, even though I'm fruitarian. But so that will take some calories, of course. What were we talking about really? Kind of lost my. What?
Is it green?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, fasting, and because I have gotten to this point where my stomach is so big, I can do that. But it's like you cannot tell someone who is trying to transition to raw now. Yeah, you should do intermittent fasting because that's like super healthy, because then you get to rest your digestive system for most of the, not actually most of the day, because it takes time to digest also after you eat, but at least you get to rest your digestive system a bit. No, but actually resting your digestive system is not so important compared to actually eating enough to be able to sustain yourself. Yeah. So screw fasting unless you are stable, consistent, and able to eat enough. Screw any kind of fasting because it's just gonna take you down. Unless you do it for like a short period of time, you do like a couple of weeks fast, or you do this like 3-week fast or 4-week or whatever, like under supervision preferably, of course. But then you're still gonna have a really hard time to eat your way back from that on raw foods, unless you had transitioned completely to raw foods before. So I'm not so much for these quick fixes like fasting, but I think fasting is great. Yeah. So but it all has to be put in perspective, like in the correct, like in the correct way for the person who's going to do it. And unless you are acutely dying or something, unless you have like chronic fatigue syndrome or something, I would not recommend just going to fasting.
You would recommend it for someone with chronic fatigue?
What?
But you said you wouldn't recommend it
Oh,
for someone.
but I would recommend, sorry, wrong. I would recommend, like if you have something that you desperately need to heal from now, sure. But unless you have something like that you really need to recover from now, or if there's something acutely kind of hurting you, I would not recommend it. Like, go on a raw diet first. Yeah, eat totally raw for 2 years, 3 years. See what happens. Let the healing be slow. Do not go crazy on the healing herbs that are not actually healing you, but can trigger some responses in the body through stimulation in different ways. Like, you eat a bunch of cilantro, right, to get rid of the mercury, heavy metals. Yeah, the cilantro actually does not get rid of the mercury, but it shakes it up. It loosens it up from the body, so it starts circulating again. Right? And it's doing it on a larger scale, that then it becomes a problem of getting it out. Then you have to eat in certain ways and just hope that the body is putting it out in your colon and that you get to transport it out. Right? But also the people doing this, they will not be doing that because they're not even eating all that much. Right? Because they're fasting and all these things for health. And so this mercury is just going to be reabsorbed, it's going to lodge itself somewhere else and maybe cause even more nerve damage. But if I speak about myself, I had these, it felt like kind of ants digging their way under my skin, on my legs, basically my whole life. And these weird nerve issues and shooting pains, especially in my hips. Just randomly, I could be walking outside and suddenly almost falling because there was this pain in my hip, kind of shooting me. And this, I don't really know where it comes from. I have a suspicion it could be like vaccines or things, because I don't remember it from when I was really small. But when I got a little bit older, like a few years into school, I know there were some vaccines and stuff, and I know that that's when it started. But it's like no proof. It's totally impossible to say exactly what it was. But what happened was that after a few years raw, it just went away. Right? So let the healing take time. Unless you're dying from it now, don't force it. Let the body heal in its own pace. So this goes against a lot of what many others are saying in the raw food community, but it also is in line with what some people are saying. And those who want to rush it, either they are selling something, like they're selling a retreat, or they're selling some herbs, or they're doing something to make money off of it, or they are pretty new in this themselves, and they have this purist thinking, like this, we gotta just heal, and they haven't even transitioned to raw completely in a stable way, but they want to take these medicines and these herbs to, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff going on, like in the ego. So we got a bit away from this spirituality kind of aspect of it all, but it's all good. It's all interesting. Yeah. Are there any more questions?
I've read articles that say some food isn't good for you, like mushrooms, that you should actually cook them.
Yeah.
Have a list of things you avoid and things that are perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to eat mushrooms, well, mushrooms, they aren't human food. But no. We can't really digest them. No. Like, I mean, we can find nutrients in everything. Like, we can just take any green leaf here. Here there are not many toxic things, but everything has nutrients. And a lot of greens or mushrooms or whatever can have quite a lot of some nutrients. But that doesn't mean that we should be eating them in our hunt to get this huge amount of that particular nutrient. Now, I would rather let the body heal and actually see that everything balances out, and when you start absorbing things properly, and fruits and some greens will do the job just perfectly without burdening your system, your body. You know. And the mushrooms, if you eat them raw, I mean, I have done it many times. They do not digest. They don't.
They come out just the way they were.
Yeah. Cut them in really small pieces, you won't notice. But what I do notice also, that there is some things going on there, like it can maybe be some sort of stimulation with mushrooms, because I notice I can become kind of addicted to them. Not as bad as bread, for example, made of wheat. We have the opioid peptides and maybe other stuff that really hits your brain in the opioid receptors and get you addicted. Yeah, just like cow's milk and stuff. Yeah.